welcome or welcome back. My name is Gina. Oh, all right. So for you guys, this is a whole different day, different video. For me, this is a continuation, a part 2 of my previous video. So yeah, my previous video, basically I'm recording this on March the 15th, and I am breaking this up into 2 different videos because otherwise it would be extraordinarily long and nobody wants to sit and listen to me for that long. So yeah, so this will be coming out on a different day. If you haven't already watched part 1, I'll put a little link card to it, so you can get back to it. But I would recommend watching that one first because in my head, I have just talked about a lot of stuff and I can imagine that I'm probably going to reference things that I said earlier. But I have had a set change and everything, as I am now moving on to my more spring projects that I have completed over the last couple of months and that I'm working on. So first up, we have the Cloudbreak Tee, which just released the week before I am filming this. And here is mine right here. This is a pattern from Wool and Pine Designs. This is the really fun part down here. And let me put this down while I tell you a little bit about it, and then I will show you some of those details. So yeah, this is a design from Wool and Pine Design, and I made the size 4, which is 44 inches. That was, I think, 2 to 4 inches was the recommended positive ease on this one. And so I always choose a size based on my upper bust, because I have a large difference between my upper and full bust. I'm 40 up here, I'm 46 down here. And so I find that my garments will fit much better if I fit them for my shoulders. So that's why I use my upper bust measurement, and that is what I used here to choose my size. I used Knit Picks Gloss in the colorway Clarity Gloss DK. So this calls for a DK weight yarn. I used 890 yards, no issues regarding the yardage that Wool and Pine had suggested. Gloss is a 70% wool, 30% silk. I figured this should be a, pretty okay transitional weather yarn for me. I have used gloss in the past. It is not my favorite. If you go back and watch my review of Knit Picks yarns, you will see that this is one that starts looking pretty ratty, pretty fast, in my opinion. I'm assuming it's the silk content in it that makes it wear just a little differently than a fully wool yarn would. And I'm gonna move this back a little bit. It has a little bit of shine to it, which is also not my favorite. Personally, I think there are applications where I would like shiny, but in an overall tee, maybe not. But I felt like it looked okay with this particular design. I also don't love this color. This was what I had on hand. So if you've been around before, you've probably heard me reference Knit Picks' big sale that happens every year in November, and I am a sale watcher. I am one of those people that will buy things when they are on sale, and then look for opportunities to use those. That's kind of how my stash works, because that way I'm able to get some nice yarns that I would not be able to afford if I were buying them at full price. So rather than choose a project and then go out and buy the yarn at full price, I will buy a sweater's quantity or a tee quantity of a yarn when it is deeply reduced, and I have the space to be able to hold on to that until the time comes when I can use it. So I bought this, that's when I would have bought this sweater's quantity, was in a big sale, but I bought it probably pretty early on in my knitting career when I didn't know that I didn't actually love this base. So this is one of 2 sweaters quantities of gloss DK that I had on hand, and so I chose this one. And my thinking is that I am actually hoping to do this week. I'm gonna try to over dye it to turn it a darker color. Like maybe even not as green as this one. Like I like this color. But I don't, how many, you know, turquoise, tees do I need? So I don't know. I'll bet just some darker color, blue, purple, you know, something cool. Have not decided yet. And we'll see if I get around to doing that. So dyeing protein fibers with, food safe dyes is actually super easy. So you can use Kool-Aid, you can use those like other drink mixes. You can use just like the dye that you would use in your cooking, in baking, like that you use for frosting. You can use Easter egg dyes. You can use any of those things, and you don't need any special equipment. You just set the dyes with either vinegar or citric acid. If you use Kool-Aid, the citric acid is already like built into that, so you don't even need to add anything. You don't need special pans because you're using all food safe materials. So that's really fun. It always, like, I build it up in my mind to be a lot harder than it is. And then I do it, and then I'm like, oh, why did I make this out to be such a hard thing and put it off doing it so long? So I need to listen to my advice and just take the plunge and try it. Now you should dye things in the, like, a yarn in yarn form. You should not dye like once it's already knit up, because the potential for you to, for splotching and stuff like is a lot greater. So anyway, so you're not supposed to do what I'm gonna do, but I did not dye my yarn. And so if I want to do this, I'm just gonna have to do it in this format. So anyway, oh, that was a like side note. Back to the pattern though. So this is a really neat pattern. It is constructed differently. When I started to make my notes on this, I was like, you just, you know, knit the back, then pick up stitches, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think that's what you do. And I went back and looked at the pattern, because it's been over a month since I finished this at this point, and that is not what you do. So you do start, like, you cast on, I think, all of these, you cast on stitches in the back, and then you gradually grow your work. You grow these, you grow the front, and once you've grown everything to where you have stitches from here to here, then you like backwards loop cast on and join this in the round. So it's definitely not the typical like cast on here, or cast on here and then grow out and make a trapezoid and then pick up and knit down the front. You are growing your stitches, all of this. And so they call this a contiguous shoulder, and it looks like more like a set in sleeve, but you don't have to do any seaming, because with a true set in sleeve, you have to set it in. You have to seam it in, and there's absolutely no seaming here. And so that's pretty neat, right? And I think, I don't know, I love the little lines that are created. I think they're very pretty. Let me show you the back. You see the little line that's created there. I think those are really pretty. I just kept stopping to look at it as I was knitting. I remember the top and being like, oh, I love those sweet little lines. I did notice that in some of the testers, they were getting some puckering right here. And I kind of want to go back, and if that testing channel is still open on Discord, ask like what might be causing that. I don't know if it was if they were using a more like plant fiber type yarn, or if, I don't know. Cause like these are not picked up stitches. These are increases that are stacked along here. That creates that little line. And so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but that might be something to watch out for when you start working on this. Is just that some people were getting some puckering there. I think mine looks pretty nice. So not too concerned about that. There are some other places that I'm a little annoyed with, like right here. This has zero to do with the pattern. This is my yarn. I think there's actually like a little slub there in the yarn, which I guess I should have noticed and cut out. But I didn't. And so now it just looks like, I just notice it every time I look at that. And that's, you know, that's the silk content in this, that makes things really pop out, I think, if there's any kind of flaw. But yeah, the construction of this is really neat. This I found an incredibly quick knit. People were finishing these like super fast. And mine was on the needles. Let's see, did I write it down? I didn't write it down. It took me 2 or 3. Oh, no, I did write it down. It was on the needles from January 28th to February 13th. So a little over 2 weeks, I guess. But the only reason it took that long was because I actually did 3 mid-project blocks on this. So I blocked, once I had like knit the back, and I think I maybe had it to the point where I was ready to join, and I wanted to double check my gauge and just make sure, because they do point out that row gauge is really important on this one because of the like what's going on with the shoulders. So if you want your shoulders and your sleeves to end up in the right spot, like you need to be cognizant of your row gauge. So I blocked it here just to check, and then I blocked it again once I got it joined, or once I had split for sleeves, because I wanted to check my placement for my short row bust darts. So this is not written into the pattern, but I did what I like to do and added short row bust darts. So that's the line that you can see here. And unfortunately, you know, because of that silk content, you really can see my short row like pretty clearly, but I think that little bit of ugliness in the surface of the fabric is worth it to have my my garment hang correctly. So I asked Wool and Pine Designs, I asked the team if I could insert short row bust darts, and they were like, yeah, you can do that. Just make notes. And so I did leave a lot of notes on my Ravelry project about this. I also, a viewer of one of my previous videos had asked if I could show how I do add those darts. And so it's like not a tutorial or anything, but I did put together a video showing like points along the process, what that looked like. So I'm pointing up here, I'll put a card to that short video so you can go and watch that. Again, it's not a tutorial. I call it an explainer. Like I'm just showing you what I was doing, and tell you how I did it, give you links to the resources so that you can do it for yourself if you want to. So I did those short rows, and then I blocked again when I was down here in the lace, because I wasn't sure if I needed to go all the way down. So this is supposed to be a little bit cropped, as it is written, and mine, like I knit it to pattern, but I feel like mine is a little bit longer than what the sample is. Mine is a little bit less cropped. If I wanted it to be cropped, I would have stopped one repeat short, which there were some people who did. They did not do 4 chart repeats, and the 4 is what was called for in the pattern. I went ahead and did the 4. Like, I think it would have looked really cute, actually, like maybe even cuter with just the 3, but I was getting, like, my shirt was lifting up when I had it with just the 3 repeats instead of the 4, and I wanted to be able to wear this to work. So I was like, I need my shirt not to hike up. Like, I need to not show my belly when I raise my arms. So I did the last repeat. But that's just something to watch. And there were people who, like I said, did not do that. Because they wanted theirs more cropped, and it's super cute. So this has been like in the top 10 on Ravelry Hot right now, which is always like super fun to see one that you have worked on be hanging out there, and I think it's for good reason. I'm definitely already thinking about like doing another one. I wonder if because if this construction up top like works in a like drops bell, I think that would be an amazing summer shirt. Like, it would work all summer long for me if I could do it in that plant fiber. I'm just not sure like if it will have enough stretch to be able to do this. So I may do some swatching with some drops bell and see if I can do that, or like cast on, you know, the top of this and like work, you know, part way down and see how it's looking. Because that's like, I think that would be really, really cute. Yeah, so I highly recommend it. All right, and I'll have put up some B-roll hopefully during all of that. If I haven't, here, enjoy some B-roll at this point. Okay, my next make is the Semper Sweater 2.0. So that is this one here. Okay, so this is the Semper Sweater Slipover. This is a pattern from Sophie, the Knit Purl girl, and this is not a new pattern. This is a one that she's reworking, and she had redone like I think some instructions and maybe numbers for the back. It's got this nice folded collar, pretty v-neck. So yeah, this was one of the many test knits that I signed up for after I was already doing several test knits. And I used Knit Picks palette held double. So this calls for a DK weight yarn, and I thought that the palette would give me a good fabric held double, and I think it does. It's not super drapey or anything, because palette's not a super drapey yarn. It's quite a lofty yarn. But yeah, I think it looks really nice. This yarn, this palette is, the colorway is comfy, like the flower, comfrey, like the flower, Comfrey. And this actually like came in my big sale order from last November, but I did not order it. So it was actually an error. They left out what I did, one of the things that I did order, and sent me this instead. And when I called, to tell them, they were like, just keep the eight accidental skeins that we sent you. So I had, a vest quantity of this yarn with no plans for it. And so when I saw this, I was like, that would be perfect, I think. And yeah, I really like it. So I guess I could show this to you. Hold. All right. So I do not foresee myself wearing this in this way. But Sophie does model it like this. And it is like, the armholes are at a good point for that. The V is quite low on this, in my opinion. I do think that's as the sample is shown. I think we're all different in terms of where our busts are. And for me, this one is, you know, it is quite plunging. And I actually did not make my V go as deep as it was supposed to. I cut off a couple of rows early and went ahead and joined mine because I was like, if it gets any lower, like, you know, it's gonna be real low. And I'm generally planning to wear stuff over this, but I was also concerned with, I wanted to add, again, the short row bust darts, and I was concerned about being able to start that, because you want to put those level with you want to start them when you're at the apex of your bust. And this V is getting real close to the apex of my bust. And so yeah, I was like, I need to go ahead and get that like joined so that I can start doing my short rows for that. Hopefully by the time I post this, I will have pictures and put up here B-roll of me modeling this. I haven't actually taken those yet. So if you watched my last video, you may remember, and I didn't say it on this one, but I fell into, I had a bad fall into the corner of my bathtub. And so like I have bruising. This is like, I'm a week and a half out at this point from the fall, but bruising over here. And the day that I actually fell when I was trying to get my stuff together to go out and take modeled pictures of this and my other top that I was wearing previous to this. So at the point that I am recording this, I still don't have any modeled finished object photos of this. So you guys are seeing it here first, at least in my timeline. But yeah, so Sophie, she says it modeled like both just as is, and then also over the top of something, which is, I think, how I will probably wear it, because I don't know what temperature situation it would have to be for me to want to wear DK 100% wool with no sleeves and a plunging neckline. That doesn't really make a lot of sense for my particular climate. Maybe it does for Great Britain, but not for me. So this will be mostly worn over sleeved items. Could do short sleeves depending on the temperature, but yeah, I think it's going to be perfect for like this time of year in the late fall when it finally starts to cool off here. I've worn this to work a couple of times already and gotten compliments on it. Let's see. So I told you guys I ended my V earlier to make it less deep. I added the short row bust darts following the same process that I talked about over here that I showed in that video. And I did that so that my thing would hang. Do you like my sweats that I'm wearing under this? Didn't really plan this part out. But you can see that look how level that is. It would not be level if I had not added those bust darts. It would be, you know, like that. And I was thinking I wanted mine relatively cropped. So mine is 3 inches shorter. So I guess it's like pretty long on hers, or maybe she has a very long torso. I don't know. But yeah, that was a modification I made. I ended the whole thing like is 3 inches shorter than the sample is. And I don't think that I don't think I have either a super short or a super long torso. I think it's like pretty in the middle. But sometimes I will have to knit things longer if I don't put those short rows in, just to account for the space that my bust is going to take up. But if I add those, like I think I have a pretty like median kind of torso length. But maybe Sophie's is really long. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's cute and very quick, and I did not notice any problems at all with it. The shoulder line is cute. I love a double folded collar. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice basic, I think. It was on my needles from February 18th to March 8th. It's like a very it's stockinette, right, all the way. So, you know, when you're knitting the stuff before you get it joined, like there's stuff going on in the top, right? But once you get that V and you're joined in the round, then it's just like totally mindless stockinette. So, yeah, this was my morning, like get up in the morning and knit before me and my kids get off to school. This was that project for when I wanted my hands to be busy, but I did not want to have to actually think about anything. This test was not, the test is ongoing. And since this is not a new release, I don't think Sophie's real like fussed about the deadline or anything. And what did I want to say about that? It's just not my favorite testing style. I like it when there's a dedicated chat that the designer is involved in, just because I find that easier. I understand why designers, especially if they're the like biggest name designers, where you know they have lots of different tests going on, and it would probably be hard to be present in all of those like gajillion different chats. But the way this one worked, you got the Google Doc. You were supposed to make comments in Canva, which I've never done before. And then there was a chat on WhatsApp. And I actually don't have WhatsApp. I know that's like a super common text messaging platform for people outside of the US. That was like where I'd heard about it, right? Was my non-US friends. But yeah, I just don't have an account, and I basically like started and was halfway through the test before I even remembered that that was a thing. And so I just never have joined. Haven't downloaded the app, don't have an account. And at this point, like there's no point. So, and also Sophie had said like, she had made it very clear, I am not going to be monitoring that. I will pop in like maybe weekly, but if you have questions, you need to let me know in these ways. Like she made it super clear that she was not going to be like, the WhatsApp was just for people who wanted to talk to other testers, which I think is really helpful. But in this case, like, you know, I think the pattern was really done. Like there was no problems. And so I assume if I had a problem and reached out in one of the ways that we were supposed to, I assume that I would have gotten an answer. But she was very like super flexible and was like, if you don't end up finishing, that's fine. If you need more time, that's fine. Just let me know. Like, she's like, just communicate. And I felt like she was, you know, super, super generous about it. And also super generous in like what she, is giving in, you know, as a thank you compensation for doing it. So in that sense, yeah, like no complaints whatsoever. It's just, you know, I like where there is a dedicated chat opportunity where you can see, and I guess, you know, there was for this one, it just didn't necessarily involve the designer, and it wasn't on a platform that I was already on. So that's probably a me issue, and it would have been totally fine if I had just made the WhatsApp and wanted to get on there. But I did not have any questions. I didn't have any comments. Like I didn't notice any errors. So yeah, I think this project is great, and you should definitely make it if you were in the market for a V-neck, and there's also a round neck version. So you don't have to buy a separate pattern for that. There is, yeah, the other version, but I love a V-neck, so I wanted to make the V-neck version. And I think Sophie also was like, you can make whichever one you want. If you need to change the size that you're making, that's totally fine. So like, she's just like super chill, super generous about what she allows her testers to do. Okay, it is actually pretty cold, so I am going to change back into my other tee. My next finished object is the one that I am wearing. This is my April tee, which is a test knit for Suvi Knits. I made this size 4, which is the large. It is 48 1/4 inch bust size. This pattern calls for 4 1/4 to 11 1/2 inches of positive ease, and so mine is on the upper end of that. And I just realized as I was writing down notes for this that this pattern is actually not size inclusive. So it goes, the upper size is like, the upper finished bust size is like set 60 3/4 inch or something like that. And so it falls short of being size inclusive if you're counting ease, which is necessary because this is definitely a pattern that calls for positive ease. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I have found that that's I'm pretty good about remembering to check if patterns are size inclusive when I'm going to buy them and make them, but I am less good about remembering to check that when I am applying for test knits. So I need to get better about that. It disappoints me that this pattern isn't, that this designer isn't size inclusive, because I had made her drizzle cardigan pattern a couple of years ago and loved that pattern. And that was why, like, I've had my eye on her since then, and waiting, you know, for a chance, like waiting for her to have a design that I was interested in testing and then see if I could test for her, you know, because I like to do that. Test for designers whose patterns I really admire, but that is unfortunate that hers is not size inclusive. Okay, hold please. My cat is begging to come in. He is in now, so hopefully he'll be quiet. All right, I'm going to stand up and let you see it. Like I said, you guys are getting the lovely view of my sweats. Okay, now the kitty is watching out the window over there. Let's see. So this is your typical pattern with this kind of drop shoulder construction, or pretty typical, I guess. So it's not a European shoulder. There's no like shoulder line in the back. What you do is cast on for the back, and then you work a bunch of short row shaping to create your shoulders. And so like all of this is created with the short row shaping, and you can see those short row like lines up here. So you work the back, and then you pick up for the fronts, and you don't, like, you knit the back down, you start the lace pattern earlier, or sorry, after you've been working the back down a while, you start the lace pattern, and then you start the lace pattern earlier up here. You do have, you know, a raised neck in the back. That's, you know, because the back is worked differently than the front. You work shoulders, cast on, you know, to join your fronts, and work down until you get down here, and then you join your fronts and backs, and then you work down, and then come back and pick your sleeves up and work those down. So it is a pretty straightforward construction if you've ever made any, you know, any of this type of drop shoulder garments before, as long as you're not afraid of short rows. This is fine, and I think it looks nice. Let's see. What do I want to say about this? I did have a journey on the yarn. So what I ended up using, this is Berroco Renew. I had mentioned in my video in February, I think, that We Crochet and then Knit Picks ended up getting it too. We're selling this Berroco yarn at a clearance. It was discontinued. And I was like, haha, you know, I'm probably gonna order this yarn and fall in love with it, and now it's gonna be discontinued and I'll be sad. And a jury's still out on whether I'm in love with it, but I did really enjoy working with it. So this is that yarn, Berroco Renew, that is discontinued. It is 35% viscose, 30% wool, 30% nylon, and 5% cashmere. So it is very soft. In the comments on Ravelry, there were some people who were mentioning it being splitty. I did not find it to be particularly splitty. I found it to be very pleasant to work with. The jury's still out comment on it is really has to do with wear, because, you know, I just haven't had it long enough to see how it is going to hold up to wear and tear, because I could see with the content that it possibly being prone to pill. But anyway, back to my journey with getting here. So I initially started, so I mentioned with this one that I had 2 sweater quantities worth of sweater quantities worth of Knit Picks gloss, DK. And so with, you know, I knit one of them up in this, and then I had a second quantity of it in another color. And I was like, okay, I'm going to work it up in this one, and then I will be done. And both of those quantities will be out of my stash, and I will just know not to buy that again. So I was like, DK, the gloss is DK. This pattern calls for a DK. I swatched and got gauge, and I was like, boom, done, you know, decision made. And so I knit almost the whole back. I think I hadn't gotten to the point where I was going to start the lace, but I had done all of the stockinette on the back. And I like kept fighting with it because it was rolling, just horribly rolling. And I realized at one of the times that I was, you know, unrolling it, I was like, this is really stiff. And then I stopped and started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, so just because you're getting the gauge that the pattern says, like, you have to think about how is this actually going to look in this design. And I was like, this is not going to be drapey. You know, if it's like so stiff and I can, you know, I have to like squish it down to unroll it, and it's like not floppy, it's not drapey at all. I was like, that is not going to look good in this this garment. And so yeah, I had done all of that knitting, and I was like, I need to rip it out. And so I did. So I ripped it out, and then I went back to the drawing board, and I swatched with Knit Picks Galileo, which is, I'm not going to remember what it is. I think it's wool and bamboo. It's wool and something shiny. And then I don't remember what the deal was with that. I just didn't like it, how it was knitting up. And then I tried the High Desert Sport, and that one I think could have worked. But I didn't have any, like, I didn't have any quantities on hand that I wanted to use for that. And then I was like, well, I could try that Renew, because I had ordered like several tea quantities, or like I had specific projects in mind, and I ordered 3 different colors of the Renew for these 3 specific projects. And I was like, well, even if I don't, like, not going to use one of those projects, so I didn't have enough of any of them. Even if I'm not gonna use that yarn, I can swatch in the Renew and see whether it'll work. And so I swatched for this in the Renew in a color that, you know, I wasn't gonna use, and I really liked that. And I was like, okay, so I will order additional Renew and I ended up ordering it in this color, because by the time that I got to that point of making that decision, a lot of the colors had sold out of the Renew, because originally there were like quite a few colors to choose from, but a lot of the ones that I had already purchased were like no longer available. Anyway, but I liked this one. So this is, what did I say? Blue Iguana? Something Iguana. Yeah, Blue Iguana. And I think it's pretty, and I think it is a good, like, I think it fits this design. So I ended up with the Renew, and I was proud of myself for realizing, like stopping to think about how my fabric was coming out and then making the call to stop and rip it out and restart rather than forge ahead, which is often what I do. When I get that worrying feeling that something's not working out, I just ignore it and just continue on. So I'm growing, I'm maturing. Yeah, so I did enjoy working with this yarn, absolutely no complaints. I used 8.6 balls of this, and so the pattern is still in testing right now. I think it goes through the end of this month, but I hopefully she'll raise her yardages required a little bit, because I would not have had enough, I don't think, with the yardage that she said. So, and there's a whole saga there. So basically, so I had to order this yarn, and apparently I did not order enough. Math is hard. Math is the worst part of knitting for me. I don't know how I managed to make these mistakes, but I ordered yarn specifically for this project. And like, I know I must have done the math wrong, because I would not have under ordered for a project I had never knitted before. You know, like I would have ordered at least the yardage that she said. So I don't know. I messed that math up. I was like 1 ball short of the yardage she had suggested for this size, but I don't think that I would have had enough even with that, because I ended up I left 2 chart repeats off. So the body for my size is supposed to have 10, and I think I did this counting earlier. I have 8. So I quit mine early. And then the arms are supposed to have 4 chart repeats, and I made mine as long as I could. So I could only do 3, and then the ribbing with the amount of yarn I had, because I had less than half of a ball of yarn left. So like I did not have enough to do another chart repeat on both of my sleeves, because each of these sleeves took 1 ball, like just the sleeves did. So 1 ball each. So yeah, hopefully she goes back and will up that yardage a little bit, like once she gets everybody else's information in. But yeah, otherwise, I do think the pattern is really cute. I had absolutely no problems with it, aside from, you know, having yardage issues. And I would have, like, I wanted to stop my, my sweater here, like, cause I didn't want it going longer. Oh, I forgot to show, it has a cute little split hem here, and you have like a faux seam that goes down the sides. So yeah, I do think it's cute. I wish it was size inclusive, and I'm sorry if you want to make this and it is, you know, just cuts off below your size. Maybe she would be willing to add to that. I don't know. So yeah, we'll see how it holds up. I am curious to see. Yeah, so let's see what next. I have my Easter basket cowl. I bet you can tell who this is by if you have been watching me for any amount of time. This is Stephanie Lotvin of Tellybean Knits Easter design. This one she is doing a make along for this one, but it was not a mystery. So she posted a test call in her group, and I love a Tellybean Knits. Aren't the bunnies so cute? Yeah, I love the color work on this one. So yeah, I answered that test call, and you know, I have knit so many of Stephanie's patterns, like I don't have to swatch or anything. I know exactly what needle size to go for, and this is almost all knit Picks Stroll. This green back here, my light green, is not a knit Picks yarn. It's I don't even know. I got it back when Yarn Box was a thing and I was a pretty baby knitter, and getting those, I don't remember. It should be in my project notes on Ravelry, which I never say this, but my project, like I always link in the show notes to all of my projects. So if you ever have questions about any of them, you know, feel free to take a look at those. Yeah, these were mostly Knit Picks, Stroll. I think the orange is Cascade Heritage. And then my Easter eggs, which are cute, that is Knit Picks Felici in the colorway Popular, which was one of this year's releases. So in the test group, somebody did their eggs with, like, they made a gradient, you know, by doing like 4 or 5 different colors along there. And I was like, that looks super cute, but also I am very lazy and I will avoid weaving in ends if at all possible. And so I was like, you know, I bet that I can do, I bet Felici might work here. So if you guys don't know, Felici is Knit Picks' self-striping yarn. Self-stripe is a sock yarn, and it is delightful. I think that it means like delight or happiness in Italian, and it definitely is. They release different colorways every year, and so this was in their November release, this Popular colorway, and I thought it would be perfect with the overall color scheme. So in the original pattern, there's like, these eggs are, I think, white, and then there's like little decorations, like you do little color work designs. And Tellybean's knits, Stephanie, she's super thoughtful. Like, she's never gonna make you do 3 color work, because nobody wants to do that. So like, she has set up the color work in here. Like, she has you slip stitches and stuff in between, you know, in your green, like these would be slipped, so that you don't have to carry 3 colors when you're doing that. And so like, I just always rave about how thoughtful she is, to the knitting experience, and like trying to make things as easy as possible while also being as cute as possible. But I just decided to forego that and do these striped eggs instead. And I'm really pleased with how they came out. And I'm happy to tell you that if you have Felici, the point at which you're doing these eggs is perfect, like the circumference, so that you are getting 2 to 3 stripes of color per egg, because like you wouldn't want just like 1 stripe you know, of one color and then like 3 stripes of another color, or I probably wouldn't anyway. So yeah, like it is the perfect circumference to get a good amount but not too much of any one color on there. And I wasn't sure, you know, until I tried it, whether that was going to turn out that way. I will say that my like bottom here like ended up looking a little bit more rainbow bright than what I had intended, but I kind of love it anyway. So yeah, super duper cute. And I'm not sure when I will get this video up, but if Easter hasn't happened, that MCal is going on in Stephanie's Ravelry group, and there's probably prizes and stuff like that. So definitely check that out. I always can wholeheartedly recommend Stephanie's patterns. She is a delight. And her patterns are. Okay, next, maybe last finished object is the chicken chocolate basket. Oh, it is not my last finished object because I just saw the other one. So this is a cute little free pattern from Moo. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. M-O-U space M-O-U. This is a designer who has a blog with free patterns on it. Or if you want to pay $1, you can get an ad-free pattern, which is really nice. They have several adorable little stuffy patterns. I think the first one I saw was a capybara, and I was like, oh, I need to make that. And I still haven't done it, but I saw that a couple of months ago. And then they have like a manta ray, and then they just released this one. So this is like, it's actually, you're supposed to be able to put a little treat like for Easter in there and then set your hen back on top. So very cute. And I just wanted a quick little project this past weekend that I could get done and feel like I had accomplished something. So I knit this up. I made it out of Knit Picks Brava worsted. I think the original pattern calls for DK, but with stuffies, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're using all the same weight, right? And you get a fabric that looks good. So to knit this, you start with your basket and it's all knit in the round. I can't pull this apart, but basically you knit like, a tube, like a muscle burrow or something. And then you tuck your little grass part of it down in there. And then I can't pull it apart because I've tacked it together to hold it in. And then you knit your hen up and, there's actually like I feel less knitting in the chicken than there is. And it is just a circle, just a tube, and then you do some like 3 needle bind off to make the little chicken butt, and you knit up and eventually close up the chicken head, and then you kind of cinch this part in to give it some poof, and voila. The worst part of this is by far the face. I hate trying to embroider eyes. So the eyes are just French knots, and then you just do like 2 little things for the beak. And then these are, you use a crochet hook to just make a little mohawk, whatever that thing is called on a chicken, the comb. Yeah, this is just loops of yarn. So yeah, there's my little addition to my Easter decorations that sit on the mantle and don't do anything except give the cat something to knock off. So I highly recommend that, and I'm definitely going to be checking out their capybara pattern. Okay. Next up, we have the Umbria Summer top. And I see I have not cut off the thread that I was using. I'm kind of feeling this to see if it's actually dry. I just got the buttons sewn on this yesterday and blocked it. So hold and I will try it on. We'll get to try it on together for the first time. All right. So I think it actually looks pretty cute. I don't know if I'll be able to give you a decent view of the back in here or not. So I definitely haven't taken pictures of this one yet at the time of filming. Hopefully I'll be putting some B-roll up here, assuming I get that done. Oh goodness, so this one has been a saga. This is the Umbria Summer top by Cookie the Knitter. I did not write down when I actually started this thing, but it is close to a year that it has been on my needles. I definitely started it in the spring of last year, so either March or April of 2025. I know it was spring semester when I started it. And yeah, so almost a year. And if you can't tell by the fact that it's been on the needles for a year, I did not enjoy this knit. And I don't think that, it's not that the pattern is badly written or anything like that. And it's not that it's not cute, because I do think that it is. I think this was mostly just a combination of yarn and pattern. And I don't think that the yarn is a bad fit for the pattern. So this yarn is, Haiku Kobasi, which is, let's see, I wrote down the percentages. 55% cotton, 21% nylon, 16% rayon, and 8% silk. So it is a great warm weather yarn. It is, and I think it is good for this pattern because it's nice and stretchy, and very drapey, which are all things that I think work well with this particular design. However, this is variegated, as you can see, and so I had to alternate skeins to try to avoid pooling, which, I mean, I think I mostly did, but like there's still, still some pooling to it, and it's just overall variegated, which is not helpful in showing off this nice broken rib pattern. The yarn is splitty. The yarn is stretchy. And yet also not stretchy at the same time, right? Because it's got all this cotton, and it's got some very firm fibers in it, as well as the nylon and the viscose, which are stretchier. Actually, viscose is not stretchy. I guess it's just the nylon. But it feels very springy, because like I think the whole point of Kobasi is sort of that you can try to make socks with it. For people who, for whatever reason, can't or don't want wool socks. Like, I think that's one of the advertised uses of it. I would not want to knit this at sock gauge. But anyway, so I had to alternate skeins. The yarn is not my favorite, worked with at a tighter gauge. I was really not enjoying this on my metal needles, so I changed to wooden needles, which did make the experience better. However, I still wouldn't say I like enjoyed, for sure, the knitting experience. It was hard to see on that color of my wooden needles because they're a darker color. So like the color made it hard to work. And then I just really struggle with broken rib on the purl side. Like, cause that's where, it's smart the way that the pattern is set up, because you get to work knit rows, right? Like when you're on the right side, you just get to knit all the way around. So you have every other row is just knits. And then you work the broken rib pattern when you're on the purl side, because it's like, if you're going to be purling anyway, you might as well do your broken rib while you're on that side. So that makes sense. However, I find it very hard to see what I'm doing on the back side. And so I would find myself knitting along and then realizing that I was, knitting when I should be in a purl column or whatever. But it's not like ribbing where you can like really clearly see what you're doing. And so then I'd end up having to like tink back, sometimes like half of the row, which is really annoying, right? On this fingering weight stuff. And so that was annoying. And so eventually, like, I was just not enjoying this knit at all, but I did want to finish it, and I felt like I had too much invested. And so I just made this my church knitting, and I took it to church, and like I just told myself, just work on it while you're there, right? You don't have to work on it any of the rest of the time, but just work on it while you're there. And so, yeah, this was pretty much exclusively knit at church from here down. And I did, in fact, eventually get it finished. So I'm glad that it's over and done with. I may end up over dyeing this, like with Rit dye, to try to, tone down the variegation a little bit. I don't know, I'll wear it and see how I feel. Let's see, I modified this to add short rows. So let's get close and see if you can see. I think you can kind of see. It's decided that's my face over there. Right in there, I did short rows. And so when this is blocking, my front is a little bit longer than my back. So you can really see this when it's flat. You can see I probably didn't work quite enough because my back is still longer than my front, but you don't want to work too many short rows and then end up with a drooping front, because like that's not gonna look good. Let's see, I did not work any buttonholes, partly because I just missed them, but also like I'm never gonna wear this unbuttoned like a cardigan, and so I was just like, I'm gonna sew it down. And also, as a busty gal, anybody who, we've all had this problem of it would gape, right? 100%. Like, this is gonna gape if it was not sewed down. So I have sewed this down, and this project, continued being a pain to the very end, because a couple of weeks ago when I initially bound off, I just used my yarn tails, I think, to kind of like sew it up a little bit so I could see, like, is this actually going to fit? Because that's, that's always a worry, right? Is that I'm going to get all the way through all of this and then it's not going to fit. So I wanted to check to see if it did in fact actually like cover everything. I could fit it on without it being skin tight. And so I had sewed that down. And so the other day when I was ready to put on my buttons, I was like, okay, I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut out like what I did with the yarn tails, because it was a little wavy. My button band is a little, and it still is a little bit wavy, but at that time I was like, maybe I just sewed it down badly. And that's why it's wavy. So I was going to cut that out. I also wanted to make my, put my top button on a little bit lower than what I had originally, I had it originally sewed up to like up here. And then I looked at the pictures and I was like, no, hers is deeper than that. And then I wanted to leave my bottom open a little more than I had. So I went and I couldn't see like where the end of my yarn tail was. But I had like just really loosely, tacked one side to the other going down. And so I was like pulling it apart and I'm like, okay, well, I should just be able to cut, one of these like strands here where, I'm crossing back and forth and like start unraveling from there. And so I did that and started unraveling. And at some point I realized I was unraveling my edge, my knitted edge. So did I pick, I don't know what I did. But I had unraveled several stitches from my button band edge, just from the middle of it. And so then I had to, try to repair that. And then I did a terrible, terrible repair job because, I could not be bothered to do this correctly, to care at this point. So I was just like, I am just seeming like just, looping through enough to try to keep anything else from unraveling. And then I'm going to bury those ends and I'm going to call it a day. Cause I don't care. I want to be done with this. And, so yeah, it's like, how did I manage to do that? I don't know. And that's like an ongoing anxiety fear I have. Anytime I have scissors out around my knitting, is that I'm going to like somehow, just totally lose control and like cut a chunk out of the middle of my knitting. Am I the only one? Does anybody else like have this irrational fear? Anyway, but I did. So it wasn't irrational as it turned out. It also wasn't in the middle of my knitting. It was what I thought was, a very long tail that was just, seaming things together. Anyway, so I, halfway fixed that, and I think it's buried. So I had to put my, how like if you're a woman, you're supposed to button your clothes one way and a man's clothes like has it on the other. Mine is backwards from whatever it's supposed to be. So this is like my buttons would be on the right. And my buttonholes, if I had done buttonholes, would be on the left. And so originally I had it done correctly, but because I cut my button band and had made an unsightly mess there, I needed to flip it and cover the unsightly mess up so it's on the inside. So yeah, so I had to redo that, and I just hate putting on buttons. It takes me so long. I guess I always do it in the floor because I have just a nice big flat surface to work on, and then my back hurts after I do that, and I have a bad back, so it's not just hurts, but it like causes me problems for days afterwards. Anyway, it's really dumb. I should do it at a table, but I never learn. Anyway, I'm just really glad this is finally done, and I think that this is work appropriate. I think it's cute. And hopefully I will enjoy it, and it will be worth all of that pain and suffering. I don't know, like, kind of bugs me that this side like wants to stand up like that and that one doesn't. And I feel like even in the sample picture, like hers does that same, like one side flips up and the other one doesn't. So anyway, maybe I can block that down. Okay. I have one last final object. I'll put a picture of it up here. It is not very beautiful, but it is simple vanilla socks with an Afterthought heel. I made these in, so this is Knit Picks Felici. They're self-striping yarn. This is from one several years ago. I think I had written down Poseidon was the name of this colorway, but then I think I saw somewhere else that was actually incorrect. So I don't know. It's one of their blue colorways from several years ago. And these I also started in March 2025. So they were on the needles for a very long time. Socks generally, especially these kinds, are like, they're purse socks for me. They're just for me to, it's my out and about portable knitting that I work on whenever I'm stuck in the car or whatever. And so they did not get a whole lot of work because sometimes if I have a stockinette project, I will bring that in the car instead. And so like my purse socks like don't even always get worked on. When I am riding in the car, I will often be working on something else. So, and then I was working on this while I was in church. So, you know, they weren't getting worked on. I took them to a conference with me that I went to in the summertime, and I was knitting, you know, they're perfect for a conference because you can, you know, they sit in your lap small. So I was working on them there, and I did not have I have like a foot cut out of the recipient's foot, to know how long to make them. And I didn't bring any of that with me to the conference, and realized, you know, when I like pulled it out and was looking at it, I was like, I think this is longer than his entire foot is going to be. And so then I just made the executive decision that I would just put in an Afterthought heel. So that's like a neat thing that you can do, right? You can just knit a tube and go back and add the heel in later. And so that's what I did. I just knit until I got to the end of my yarn, and I was doing toe up, so I, you know, cast that off, and I cut in the heel in January because the recipient was actually visiting at Christmas, and so I was able to have him try on the Afterthought heel because these are like men's size 13s, and I don't want to have to redo anything, you know. And with an Afterthought heel, you can't really redo anything anyway. So I was just, before I knitted the other one, right, I wanted to make sure that one fit. And so I had him try them on, and he was like, they're great. So then I knit the next one up in like less than a month, because socks don't take long if you just actually work on them. And so I was able to get that done and send them to him well in advance of his birthday. So that was good. And I did, as I was working on these, I did video the second Afterthought heel I put on. I don't know if that is of interest to anybody, but I was thinking I might put together like a little short video. Again, not a tutorial, but just showing you the process if you've ever like wondered what it looks like to put in an Afterthought heel or how hard it is. It is definitely not my preferred way to do things, but in a case like this, where I would have just had to stop my project and not have my knitting, or put in that heel later, like it's, you know, I would much prefer to put something in later and be able to keep my hands busy in the moment. So, but yeah, they worked. And actually the recipient said that they're his favorite socks that I have made so far. So apparently he likes the overall fit of those, which is good to know. Not that I will be doing the Afterthought heel, but Shortrow heel for sure. I'm happy to do that. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in seeing that video. So now my works in progress. And these I'm super excited about. I've been working on these a lot the last few days. Okay, this is the Stornoway Tee by Cheryl Mokhtari. And I cast this on last Sunday, which is like March 15th now, so that'd be like March 8th. And I might be able to get this finished today. We'll see. Let me try it on for you. It looks It looks really short, but it's not. It's got dropped sleeves that are gonna come down here. I think it's like 3 repeats, so I should have like 1 color of each stripe. And I just put on my double folded collar this morning, and I bound it off last night and used tubular bind off, which, you know, I will do a tubular bind off when it's directed most of the time. But I don't always think that it looks good. I definitely don't think it looks as good as the amount of time and pain and suffering it takes. But it looks really good in this yarn, I think. I was admiring it as I was working it. So what am I using? This is Knit Picks Woolen Cotton, which is 50% merino and 50% cotton. I made an anacortes tee in woolen cotton last spring, and I liked the experience. I have gotten less wear out of that tee than I thought I would, because the neckline is high and it itches me. Like, it just bothers me. I really don't like a neckline that comes up on my neck, and so this one is going to be nice and low, and I have thoroughly enjoyed this project. I have enjoyed the yarn. I feel like it's softer than the colorway that I use for my anacortes tee. And I know it's not supposed to make a difference, like what color something is, but I swear the different color dyes like does make yarn feel different. Anyway, this light color is just the natural or the bare. It's the undyed, and this is overalls, and this is kombucha squash. And then this green is, let's see, cedar heather, which this was not the green. Like, these are not 100% the colors that I would have chosen. I have been collecting yarn for this, like over multiple Knit Picks orders. And like, I would have liked a lighter green, but like this was the green that they had. And I would have liked to have, there's a cute purple, I can't remember, I think it's called Purple Carrot, that I would have liked to have had in it. And they were sold out of both of those, and like for months. I think they're back in stock now, but, and maybe I'll order some, because I am going to have some leftover of the natural, and I think it could be really cute to make like a striped tank in this. So I might still order some, but I have definitely enjoyed this. I think that there's just enough going on in this pattern to keep it really engaging. So you, like, this is just stockinette, your stripes, your colored, and then you have 3 rounds, or I guess I shouldn't say what all of this is, but you have some rounds of reverse stockinette, and you have some broken rib and more reverse stockinette, and then repeats. And yeah, like I said, it's just enough to keep it going, but it's really simple. I don't hate purling, but I'm also like, would prefer, right, to knit if I can. And so the way to work reverse stockinette when you are in the round is you have to purl, right, every round instead of knitting. And so whenever I get to those reverse stockinette sections, I just work a short row and flip my work inside out and then knit. So I have not been purling to get those reverse stockinette sections. I have been doing that all like knitted. Now when you're working in the flat, you can knit, well, you have to do some purling, but you also do some knitting. So you're only like purling half of the rows. And so I did that, of course, up there. But once I was in the round, I did the cheater way to avoid that. Now, the bad thing is there are going to be 1,000 ends to weave in from all of these colors, because like you can't carry that color all that way. I mean, you could, I guess, but I'm not going to. I have been carrying my natural. So there are a few places where that does not look the best. Let's see, over here is probably where my, yeah, you can kind of see. I'm going to have to go back and, you know, when I weave those ends in, close up some holes. And I probably created a few little holes with my Shortrow trick there that I'll have to do a little doctoring on, but I think it's worth it. So this tee is only going to take a little over a week. And I have just been working on it a lot because it's very fun. And I had to stop myself. Like, this yarn isn't hurting my hands, but I also think that there's the potential for it to hurt my hands if I work with it too much, just because it does have a high cotton content. So I've been trying to like not let myself just work on this. So super happy. It should be finished very shortly. Okay, next one is another spring top that I have been working quite a bit on, and that is my Winnie top. So the Stornoway is like, I just cast that one on last week. The Winnie top I actually cast on in my video in January. I had cast it on to have as like a stockinette background project, and then I kind of forgot about it in the middle of all of these other test knits that I was doing. And then as I was winding all of those down, I was, you know, getting like, well, do I need to cast something new on? And then I realized, oh, I still got that. So I pulled it out and have made a lot of progress on it. And it is getting very close to being done as well. It's got lace here. I'm trying to show you. Lace around the edges, lace around the neckline. And I've already gone ahead and put mine on so that I could kind of see how long things are looking. So the Winnie top is a pattern by Lily Cape France. I'm making the size 4, which is a 40 to 42 inch. I forgot to say, my Stornoway Tee, I'm making the size 6, which is 107 centimeters. I have no idea what that is in inches. It calls for 7 centimeters of positive ease, the Stornoway Tee, and I know my upper bust is 100 centimeters. So I saw that 107. I was like, well, that's it. I don't actually know what that is in inches, but that is the correct size for me. So, also I didn't say on the Stornoway, I winged it on my gauge. I just went back and looked at my Anacortes gauge, and I think that it's the same gauge. And so I was like, I'm just using the needles that I use for the Anacortes. So I actually have no idea what my gauge is on the Stornoway because I have not checked it, but just trying it on, it's fine. So I'm happy with how it's looking. So I'm not concerned about that. On the Winnie top, I am using Knit Picks Voliere, and I don't speak any French, so that's probably an incorrect, terrible pronunciation. In the colorway Gala, Galah. Voliere is 40% linen, 30% silk, 30% alpaca, and it is a lace weight, and I am holding it double. The Winnie top calls for a DK weight, and the Voliere comes in these little, I don't know what the put up is called, but kind of like little squares almost. And you would not center pull this. Like, you unwind it from the outside, and it's very, like, it wants to fall apart. And it also wants to grab and tangle really terribly. So I just keep mine in these little Ziploc bags and pull out of there. And I still get tangles every once in a while, but it's like not nearly what it would be if they were in my project bag floating around loose. But yeah, I'm holding that double, and I had swatched for this way back in the fall and was getting gauge. And so then I cast it on in January and then picked it up in this last week and have been working on it a lot. And yeah, it should be finished in the next couple of days. I just need to knit down to however long I want it to be. And this is supposed to be fairly cropped. It's supposed to hit, like it needs to end at before your hips start increasing, because you actually like are working decreases. Like that's what these stitch markers are, is like where I have decreased. So you decrease out from your full bust down and then to sort of the smallest point, and then you apply this lace to the bottom of the hem. And I think it's going to kind of balloon a little bit over that. I don't know. I'm a little concerned, just because this does not have any stretch whatsoever. This is, you know, all non-stretchy materials, and so I'm a little concerned about, is it going to be too tight at the waist? Because we have, the way my body is, like my smallest part is like right here, right? And then I'm increasing. I cannot have my shirt end right here, because my belly button is down here, and so my like actual natural waist is up here, and that would not be work appropriate or any other kind of appropriate for me, to have my stomach hanging out. So yeah, so mine is, I need it to end down here, which is really like starting to get wider. So hopefully it will still be wide enough. Hopefully we haven't decreased out too much. But yeah, I've got to get it long enough, you know, in the front so that it's going to cover enough of my belly to be socially appropriate. I did not add short rows in this, and I wish that I had, but I just wasn't sure where things were. So when you make this initially, before you apply so to start this, you start the back, right? You knit the back, then you come and you pick up stitches. Pick up stitches here for your shoulder, knit this down, pick up stitches, knit this down, and then you join it. This V-neck was probably down to there on me. Like it was extremely deep before you apply the hem. So you make your V-neck and then you come back and then you knit this lace hem separately and apply that. And so when I applied that, it like pulled it up a lot, so that it is now a socially acceptable depth. I can wear this out in public. And the same thing happened with the arms. Like they were so deep, like they probably went to right there on me. I was like, what in the world? But now they're better. Like they're still pretty low. I would say they probably still hit like right about there on me, but applying the lace like sucked up a lot of that. But it makes it very tight. Like there's just no stretch to that at all. And so I'm a little concerned about like what that's going to do on my waist. Yeah. So I guess we will find out shortly. 'Cause I only have a couple of days worth of work left on this. Yeah, so I probably finish my Stornoway and then I will finish this one up, and that means, because I'm like in the wind down process for those two, thinking about what I'm gonna do next, and at this point I am thinking about the Gwenver sweater, which I really wanted to make by Knit Purl Girl. I've got the yarn I want to use for that. I need to swatch because it's a new one. So yeah, thinking about that completely seasonally inappropriate knit. And then I want to do maybe the Alchemist Slipover by Wool and Pine Design in that Renew yarn that I just got. And so those are up there. And then in Lily Kate France, she just had a spring summer sale, and so I picked up her Checkerplate tee and her Knitty Committee top. Yeah, I really like Lily Kate's one, her style, but also just her attention to detail. So she is a designer who does generally include like those bust darts because she knows that's gonna help your garments fit better if you're not doing 10 inches of positive ease like so many designers are. So yeah, I would like to make both of those. For sure, I want to make the Checkerplate tee this summer. I'm thinking about doing that one in Holst Garn Coast, and I'm thinking about placing a maybe an order for my birthday. I have a birthday in May, and I know that my mom will give me some birthday money for that. So I was like checking out the tariffs and stuff, and I think it even with the tariffs, like that is still very reasonably priced yarn, and so I will probably get like several tea quantities because I just really have loved my Enola V top that I made with the Holst Coast. It's really good for the climate that we have where it's so hot in the summer, and so I think I could get some good wear out of garments made with that yarn. So I would like to acquire some more, but I think that is pretty much it for now. I have taken up enough of your time. Please let me know what you have been working on, what you've been up to, what are you gonna knit for the spring, summer. Yeah, thanks for spending some of your time with me. I hope that you are knitting what brings you joy. Bye.